Hello everybody, I'm Michael again. It's been a very long time since I've made another video, so I want to make another video so I can practice talking again, and maybe I'll make a few more videos again. Today I want to tell you about American politics and specifically why I am voting for who I'm voting for. So let's think about the history of governments, because I think from the time of the first permanent human settlements until even the present in a lot of countries, most countries and places were ruled by a monarch. There were monarchies, ruling families. Typically, one person was like a dictator, and usually the dictator was a man who we might call a king or an emperor or ruler. Occasionally, the ruler was a woman who we might call a queen, or sometimes perhaps an emperoress, or however we want to call the ruler. The monarch had a lot of power. The monarch was not elected. Sometimes there were violent putschs or situations where one person would kill the ruler and then take over. In general, people murder their neighbors a lot more frequently than they do in the United States now. And then in the 1700s, there was this movement that consisted of new ideas in philosophy and art and architecture and government, and this what's called the Age of Enlightenment. And some people say it started as early as 1650, and some people say it started in the beginning of the 1700s, and then it ended around the time of the French Revolution, around the 1789. And there were some ideas about government, and some of these ideas were that human beings have certain natural rights that they should have even if a government doesn't grant you these rights. Free market capitalism, the idea that of private ownership of the means of production, small limited government. These ideas are sometimes called classical liberalism. See, liberty has to do with being like freedom. Liberalism has to do with liberty. Originally, the idea of liberalism was the opposite of monarchism. There's different ideas that count as conservative. Classical liberalism is sort of like conservatism now, because conservatism has to do with conserving something, with like preserving something in the past. The kind of past ideas that I want to preserve are like the classical liberalism ideas, like the Enlightenment ideas, while liberalism now has morphed into something which is more like communism, which I don't want. See, a lot of liberals want taxes. Taxes are like theft. I've known that taxes are like theft since I was 16 years old and I got my first job, and they told me I was going to get $6 an hour. They spent $6 on me, and the government stole some of that, and I got less. I want anything and everything that can and all possibly be handled by private organizations to be handled by private organizations. I want the private organizations to have to earn their own money instead of stealing from people like me in the form of taxes. Some people say rich people should pay more taxes than poorer people, and I totally don't agree. Rich people should not pay a greater rate of taxes than poorer people. Rich people are usually business owners, and when a rich person has to pay a greater amount of taxes, I would think that they're not going to take a pay cut. What's going to happen is that their company is just going to spend more money on their salary, which is going to mean that people like me are going to get paid less. So when people say they want to tax the rich, that's actually a conspiracy to get poorer people like me to be more dependent on the government. So I'm against taxes. In some ways, what I believe in is more similar to liberal ideas now, but in some ways I'm more conservative. So the Republican Party in the United States generally seems to represent religiousness. Like, I don't pay attention to religion. I don't follow a religion. So I'm definitely glad that there is the idea of a separation between church and state. But the way I'd rather say it is that I don't care if people do a religion, just that I don't want to have anything to do with it, and I would rather that the government have nothing to do with religion. And actually, in the past, there used to not be a distinction between government and religion. So when the United States started, it was very significant and unprecedented that the United States was going to be a government that doesn't have anything to do with the religion, a government that has no state religion. I'm against affirmative action, so obviously I don't want certain quotas at universities where a certain minimum number of people from different groups have to be admitted just because they're supposed to be part of a group. Actually, liberals or Democrats are the most racist people, or the ones that care about affirmative action, or the ones who care about who's supposed to be part of what group, are the ones who are the most racist. Because if you think about it, if you didn't care who's supposed to be part of what group, then everyone would just be classified as just a human being, and then there'd be no sense in constantly there's these ideas of constantly whining about how some people are supposed to be prejudiced against other people. Like, there's these certain radical liberals who have a chip on their shoulder all the time, constantly feeling threatened that everyone's prejudiced against black people or women. I definitely want the government to be as small as possible. I'll just give you a couple other brief issues. I think global warming is a hoax, and maybe I'll make another video about the global warming / climate change conspiracy. I don't have a problem with firearms. I know the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States grants us the right to own firearms, and liberals hate the possibility of owning guns or any kind of firearms. I don't have a problem with drilling for oil and gas. I think liberals are against the Western way of life in some ways, and they hate fossil fuels. Also, we should want to be energy self-sufficient so that we're not depending on other countries for our energy needs. We shouldn't have to depend on the Middle East for oil. I don't have a problem with homosexuals, so I'm not going to worry about whether or not gays and lesbians get married or not. But I don't want to be prejudiced against homosexuals. I want taxes to be as low as possible. Actually, I think all taxes are theft. I think all charity and welfare services should be provided by private organizations and not the government. I don't have a problem with abortion, so I'm liberal on abortion. That's about all for this video. So that's why I'm voting for. I vote for Republican candidates as much as possible. I don't have a problem with Donald Trump. I don't have a problem with immigration, and I don't think Donald Trump's prejudiced against immigrants. My mom thinks Donald Trump is similar to Adolf Hitler. I think it's stupid that most Jewish people, like my parents, always vote for Democratic candidates. I don't care if Donald Trump said pussy or said the wrong vocabulary. that's about it for this video.